last time we went to Mexico, I was running on 45 minutes of sleep, so I'm trying to avoid that this time.
Go to bed early. Uber showing up at 2:15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you will be relaxing next week when I'm doing a show here, working my fingers to the bone. You will be sunbathing in St. Lucia.
Tomorrow be what day is that next week? So,
you said you'd be back Thursday, so midday Thursday.
We're traveling. We won't be relaxing next Wednesday, but we will be traveling.
Okay. Well, I think I may do an episode with someone else. I'm going to reach out to Ben. We'll see how that works out. But so
yeah, we'll be traveling back that day.
We're rolling. And how are you doing? I know you sent me a picture. So while you're out vacationing, enjoying the fruits of your labor, it's your anniversary, right? This is your all's anniversary trip.
Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yes.
What are y'all, like 25 years or something like that?
22.
Oh, wow. Well, good for you.
2 years.
So St. Lucia, and so I know you've got some flips going. You sent me a couple pictures of tile. So one of my projects for you while you're gone is to go to Floor and Decor, pick up samples, take it up to Aubrey once they get the countertops in, and hold it up and take some pictures and send it to you so you can kind of see how it matches the countertop there.
Yeah, I think I'm possibly between just two. So I sent you.
Okay.
I sent you a bunch, but then I kind of retracted back and was like, I think I'm between maybe two of them. So
okay. Well, happy to help however I can. I have a small design fee. I will send you an invoice. I know you pay on Fridays.
Perfect.
I know how the whole thing works, but I haven't seen that house yet. So what's your timeline up there? You're probably, if you're doing countertops and tile, you're probably a couple weeks away.
We are, if the 4 guys came this week, like I was hoping they would, but they didn't, we'd be probably going live next week if that was the case. But
oh, wow.
Countertops are going in, I believe, tomorrow. I apologize. I'm trying to get my do not disturb on, and my thumb is not pulling down the screen. So countertops tomorrow, but floors, I was hoping, I was on my guy the last 2 weeks, like, get out there and measure. I need floors. And anyways, that didn't happen in time. And so, flooring is usually a week and a half, 2 week lead time. So floors are scheduled for basically when I get back. So like the 4th or the 5th. So we're kind of sitting on our hands a little bit. The electricians are there today trimming it out. Can't do plumbing until the floors go in because I've got the vinyl floor and toilets are sitting on top of that. So
okay,
there's a couple days that we'll
always something. And then you sent out pictures of Aaron's place, and I know the framers are there working and flipping around stairs and getting that going. So if you don't mind, I may go over there and sort of, get some stuff done while you're out. May, try my hand at some sheetrock. You may be surprised when you get back of all the progress that we get done there, but it's looking really cool. So you've got a lot going. This last week for me has been my busiest week I would say the last couple of weeks have been my busiest non-flip, retail, consumer-facing weeks of real estate I've ever had. And I'm really excited about it, really proud of the, kind of what's led up to it. I had Colin and Monica. Those were leads that you had given me. They are a young couple. They're sort of friends and distant relatives. And that was a funny process because they started out looking for a house. Their original budget was $350 in the Colony, and those houses are like early 1970s, probably have to do some work, low ceilings. And that was the one where Colin was like, hey, I don't really want a driveway that faces the front. So I went through and just deleted hundreds of houses manually that had garages in the front. Well, then all of a sudden one day he's like, hey, what about this? And it was an acre property up in Sanger, which is way north of Denton. And it was $200,000 more than his budget. And I was like, sure, let's go. So that's, of course, that was a 2-year-old house. They landed on it. They loved it. So they closed last week. So we got to go close that house. And I went up there and took him a little gift. He said he locked himself out the first day. He walked outside. He walked out the front door and it had this like automatic sort of deadbolt thing, and it locked behind him. So he like freaking out. He figured out that he had the garage code. He's like, I was about to have to call you at like 11:30 at night. He was late because they were going out to see what the lights are still on out front. So that was cool. My Princeton home is so close to being closed. It was supposed to close last week. We had a little glitch. Turns out this Choctaw loan is not anyone's fan favorite, and everyone involved in it has basically said, I will never do this again. And I found out that I guess I hesitate to call it predatory, but it is aimed at people who don't have Social Security numbers. And and it's a program that allows them to get mortgages, but it's a 10% loan. And so this is a $265,000 house. They're having to bring, I think, $26,000 to closing, which is coming in way of concessions at this point. And their mortgage is still somewhere in the realm of like $3,000 or something crazy. It's like insane. So it's insane.
It's like a hard money /
kind of a hard money
finance kind of thing. Like almost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is the deed getting wonky at all? Or are they?
No, I still don't quite understand how Choctaw's involved, but somehow they've put themselves in the middle of it. But the people signing the paperwork are the buyers, but the mortgage is Choctaw's. I don't know, but I know that the lender does not enjoy doing it. This agent thought this was going to be this great product for her clients. She has a lot of Spanish speaking clients, and I think that's like a big deal for her. And she was excited at first, and she's like, I'll never do this again. So it's just been a mess, but we're supposed to close
so it's still
this
not
Friday.
Closed.
No. So we'll be going on like day 55 or 6.
Wow.
Then, so the big news is I've talked about Keller. I've talked about the old couple. They're, they got a lot of stuff. They've got a lot of old cars. I did a couple YouTube videos. Go check out the Real Estate Heavyweights YouTube channel. Got some cool videos up. And so Tavis and I had been out there. We comped this thing. We've talked about it on the podcast. Anyway, came down to it. I almost said it came down to nut cutting time, which I don't think anyone knows what that means. But I did grow up in Amarillo, and I would go out to my grandpa's farm, and I actually have cut nuts. So it has come down to nut cutting time for me one day out at the farm. And
one and only.
Yeah, that was a one and done.
I'm not doing this again.
Yeah, that was a one and done. That was a little traumatic. You go out there, Grandpa, he's done this 100 times. You put these steers, not steers yet, but you put these young bulls in the chute, and you're giving them shots, and you're doing all this sort of thing. And he pulls out his pocket knife and goes to town, and you help out, and then he like throws it behind him, and the dog goes and eats it. I'm like, oh my God. It was like traumatic, but yes, I have had that experience. So anyway, we're out in Keller, and it has come down to that time. So we go ahead, we get all the paperwork done, and we list at 1.2. You kind of thought we should list a little lower early on, but we listed at 1.2, and it really was sort of like, I don't know if this is going to go low. I don't know if it's going to go high. It really was a question mark. Well, did an open house the next day, which was a different move. Open house we listed as land. But we had great turnout. We got 3 groups come out. We ended up getting 3 offers within 24 hours. We had another verbal offer. 3 of the offers were cash. 1 was financing. 1 verbal offer was cash. And so two in hand were cash. 1 was financing. And it ended up going multiple, and we went over asking. And so it's
so you ended up with a third one?
Yeah.
You ended up getting a third offer? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know.
Nice. Yeah, we got a third offer that was financing. It was good offer, but it just, it was big down payment. Like they did it right, but it just wasn't over asking. We had a really good cash offer.
I'm impressed. I think you did the right move by doing the improved land listing.
Yeah.
And you go in that direction.
Yeah. We basically structured it as like
going off of, it just going off of single family. I think you did good.
Yeah, it was basically
that way. People that have their triggers set up for
land,
minimum land, and so the house kind of became a bonus if somebody wants to take it on. But
yeah, it was land that happens to have a house as opposed to a house that happens to be on land. And
right.
And the nice thing about that is I really do think that a couple of these guys did have those searches, and one of them's a broker, and they just knew what they were looking for, and they were ready, and they knew when it popped up, they jumped on it, and that's why we had such good interest early on. And it was actually really competitive. I've never had offers that were so apples to apples, that came in. And so it just came down to net number for them, and they're ecstatic. So I'm hoping it, of course, I don't want to jinx it, but it is a 2-week close. It's cash, 3-day option. I mean, he's not inspecting the house.
What's awesome about that property too, which is unique, is that it's heavily treed. It's heavily treed, and it sits at a high elevation too. So all those different factors are unique, right? And when you're dealing with land versus, you can get on the MLS right now and look for 5-acre tracts, and a lot of times it's just wide open field.
Yeah,
you might have 1 or 2 mesquite trees or a couple cedar trees scattered, but it's
you're out in Van Alstyne, and you've got like a 5-acre rectangle at the corner of FM 39 and
it's definitely not near
Main
as attractive. I mean, yes, you have land, but it's not anything like this. Keller property was special, so that's exciting.
I'm excited.
I'm very,
it's
very
a young
proud
couple.
of you.
Yeah, thank you. The group getting it. I'm
sure the family's proud as well. I'm sure
they're excited.
They're happy. It's got to be a big weight lifted off their back just to know, like, okay, this is part of the journey, part of the motivation, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's just been such a question mark. Yeah, it's been such a question mark for a couple months now. I think they were just really nervous. They're trying to figure out all the timing. But now the other nice thing about how it worked out is both the guys that put in offers were super cool about timing, because they were going to do either a big reno or a demo of the property, and they don't have to start tomorrow. And so they said, we'll do a decent lease back. And so it's just worked out to where we're going to be able to close. We're going to be able to do the estate sale. They're going to be able to buy a house somewhere over in Bedford, Keller, or Eula, something, and move. And then the new family can come in and do whatever. And it's just really, fingers crossed, but it's worked out. And at least we have a couple really solid backup offers. And, the verbal was like, hey, please let me know if this doesn't work. I want this property. So it was really, really cool. And so, it's been fun making content out there, and then getting to show this family kind of what's next. And the nice thing too is that they got enough of a number, and I was like, okay, I had a conversation with him yesterday because we went over and looked at a house, and I said, okay, here's the thing. You made a little bit more money on this house than you thought you might originally. Let's go ahead and put that as an average into your life and say, you don't have to get top dollar for your tractor or the car. Let's just get rid of some stuff, let's just,
let's apply that over asking to all of these cars that you have.
Let's just say
in your mind, way overvalued.
Right. Let's just get rid of them, and they'll go find a good home, but we don't have to sit there and try to squeeze every dollar out of these things, which I think I would understand if you were low, So anyway, I'm hoping it sort of paves the way for this next deal. And I need to use this momentum to try to get some more listings. So we've got another buyer.
Absolutely.
Wally's sister, we're going to be helping her out. So I'm excited. I'm hoping to use the momentum and we'll move forward. So, well, why don't we talk?
You're on the right track, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, it was fun. I actually went yesterday to the Keller Williams office. I went to the social media education hour, and it was kind of cool because I didn't realize this. I went, legitimately to learn, and I did learn something. He told me this one website I had heard of, but I never really paid attention to, and it was really cool. And something that people, I'll look it up. But anyway, it's a great way to find out which videos to do, topics for videos. Nice. And a lot of,
you did good with the music also, because Walter was like, man, this thing is trending right now. I can't get the song out of my head. So,
was that the reel for the property?
Yeah.
That was that's trending audio.
So I will say this, we're very, very pleased and thankful again. We talked last week about our organic lead of Katie Bader finding us on Spotify and happened to be an avid listener. So she did listen last week, and she did say thanks for the shout out. So we, again, wanted to say, thank you and thanks for listening and tuning in. I will say I'm proud of you. I'm proud of Katie, because we met last week, and she's, she has passion for flipping, and her work is stellar. She's done some great stuff. She's shown me the properties she's done, higher end stuff, tier 3 kind of stuff, like big projects. She's trying to just kind of reset, regroup, and would love to do a bunch of tier 1s. But based on her situation right now and everything, our session kind of ended up resulting in like, look, just right now, real estate at the end of the day, of being a sales agent, is pretty low overhead when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yep.
I mean, you hear Ben Baker talking about spending $10,000-$15,000 a month in advertising, and yes, you can do that, and you can get to a point to do that. Ben's also doing close to $1 million GCI per year right now too, right? So it's not going to happen your first year. But nevertheless, so Katie was in it before, had a good business, had some personal struggles and things like that, and kind of reset, regrouped. And so anyways, we had the conversation about, hey, just go back to the books, just go back to the basics, right? And she's like, well, I wish you were telling me something else, but I understand what you're saying. And I'm like, all good. Well, anyways, this week I've seen her active on social media, and she's been in open houses. She's been touring property. She's been pushing property, and back at it. So
yeah, I will say I miss flipping.
And
I do miss flip. I've thought about this. I miss flipping. I want to flip.
And I wanted to say it just, I wanted to get your insight in comparison, right? Because you're similar in that sense.
Yep. So I Brett was giving me a hard time at your party the other night. He's like, dude, you have a podcast about investing. What are you not doing? You're not doing an investment right now? I was like, well, we talk about real estate in general, but yeah, he was giving me a hard time. So I do want to flip something. Yeah. That being said, it is extremely stressful. And if you can get into a great routine and get the crew, and I still want to have that experience from beginning to end to see how that goes and just see what the stress level is like and try to do a couple. But if you can get into that routine and just be a normal agent and represent people well and have closings where you're just stacking up, decent checks, and it's fun. I enjoy that. I enjoy that part of real estate. And, I enjoy the buyer side. I like showing people houses. I enjoy the hunt. And it's funny to me that there's a lot of agents out there that either they don't like it or they got to a point in their career where they kind of stick their nose up at it. And maybe I'll get there some point. But right now, like, I enjoy that part. And so, sure, this whole run right now, I was like, man, let's do this again,
Well, I think the basis of the conversation was this. So, and you and I've talked about this a lot as well. And she's in a position where she does have some cash. And so she's like, I'm looking at, where can I leverage this with, what bank can I use, or hard money, or somebody to do my next flip. And it's great. But I mean, what you don't realize, and this is the big conversation we had, is you need cash flow coming in, because a flip, and you've been there, right? Mm-hmm. You've been in the situation where essentially you were flipping, and you had your day job, you had your therapy job, and so you had cash coming in from that. But the amount of stress and everything to balance that act, you learned a lot of lessons through your time of flipping, because it was hard for you to manage your time properly, to be very productive and be very profitable with your flip, right?
Yep.
And you learned a lot of things. I mean, you named it great. You named the simile, and the sense of you had mentioned last year, I think, hey, what I would have spent in an education, the amount of what you learn for the time period of the cost of money, you learned a tremendous amount, right, in a very short amount of time compared to like
a college college semester. Right? You couldn't have sat in a class, paid the same amount of money, and had some professor to say, here's what flipping's like. And you would have been like, there's idiot 18-year-olds out there that are being tricked into doing that, sitting in and learning that thing and spending 20 grand in a semester or 40 grand in a semester to quote unquote learn something. But if we go and fail at a flip and we lose $5,000, and we're like, man, I didn't make money, and you feel like a failure. It's like, dude, there's people who pay 3 times that to go to a seminar to get a guru to tell him and hand him a booklet to tell, you know, it's like you have to put it into perspective, you know, and like, yeah, that education is worth a lot, you know, but it's also stressful. Like it comes at a cost.
And that was kind of the basis. I was like, look, you know what you're doing. You know, you've done a good job. You kind of reset, but I was like, if your focus 100% is taking this cash you have and going into flipping, it's going to be a while before it pays you out, right? And if you don't have any other income that you're living off of right now, what are you going to do, right? Yep. I mean, you're going to have those reserves, but I mean, that's a lot more stress, and you're going to make a lot more mistakes when your flip is 100% contingent on your income, meaning you have to sell this house in order to live.
Yeah, like, right.
If that is your sole income and you've got your savings tied up in this flip, and it's, you know, and you hear gurus out there, you know, rip the Band-Aid off, go do it, you know, take the step, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's cool. I'm all about action, but you have to do it within reason. And so that was the basis of it is, hey, go back to what you know. You're licensed. You have skills. You've been an agent before. Go do that. Go, you know, it's not going to cost you a lot of overhead. Go get some deals under your belt. Get some traditional deals moving. Get your pipeline full. Get some income going. And then, you know, the more exposure you have, the more phone calls you're making, the more people you're meeting, the more people you add to your database, like Ben says, the more open houses you do, the more interaction you have on a day-to-day basis in real estate will open opportunities for you to do more traditional business as well as flipping business. So like the right deal is going to come along. And because she said to me, she goes, I've only ever bought on the MLS. I haven't bought on the MLS in years, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I've only bought a flip on MLS. Well, if that's your only strategy for flipping, you're leaving money on the table, or you're buying it too high, right? Like at the end of the day, you're buying it too high if you're buying it on MLS. It's not to say you can't make a deal work, but if that's your only strategy, it's tough. I mean, we are getting into a market where there is some stuff sitting on the market a while, and there might be an opportunity there with expireds or something that, although you're not seeing a lot of expireds, but you're seeing and actually, something seasoned.
Dustin and Megan and down in Austin, that's been their strategy, is mostly on market. They've had some wholesale stuff, but Dustin has been really, he has a system. You know, he just consistently puts out offers and does follow up with the agents. And so he's kind of figured that out for them. And Austin, I think, is a very different market than us. I mean, it took a dive. He said, I think it's down 25%, something like that. Wow. I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, this was worse in his mind. This is worse than maybe 2008. Like he said, it's been a pretty big drop. So you've found stuff that's losing value, but they've done great even within that. But yeah, I mean, I think to your point, go ahead.
I was going to say, how's their showing activity on their flip? I know they just launched one. Did they get it under contract pretty quick?
That's a good question.
Kind of slow?
I know it's been relatively slow. I don't think it's been, you know, just this overwhelming. I want to say I would be lying if I told you for sure. I think it is under contract, but I will have to. I know the guy he works for as an agent, though. He does a higher volume. He's breaking even or taking losses on several deals. He's more of a volume guy. He admittedly bought a few things wrong, and he's kind of paying the price. But you know, he's taking like a $40,000 haircut on one. So I mean, it's going to happen, and the longer you go, it's going to happen, and hopefully it averages out. But I mean, to your point, yeah, we had that skill set. And what I was going to say is, yesterday I went to the Keller Williams office. I got to sit into the social media class to learn. Well, I think 7 people were there, and they're all brand new agents. I didn't realize that they didn't advertise it. No. Come on, Sam. Welcome to the office, Sam. But yeah, so it was really eye-opening because, you know, on here I'm like, hey, I'm the relative newbie. I've done this and this and this. Well, then when you go and you're around actual new agents and you just kind of see the overwhelm and you hear the questions, you're like, man, I came away from there happy with my progress. You know, it's like, you've come a long way. I've done it 4 years just now, and you know, I'm just now going in more full time, and it was cool, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed helping people out.
Look at the momentum you're having right now, right?
Yeah.
Coming into fourth quarter. Yeah. It will. But I mean, it also activates, it's that reticular activator that we talk about, right? It's something that's in the back of your brain that you constantly. The way that to explain it, and you know this, but it's like you go by a you go buy
a yellow,
a red
yellow
car,
bug. Yeah,
right? Or
red
you go buy a
Ferrari.
red Mercedes, and you never saw them on the street before you bought one, and now you see them everywhere,
Yep.
right? Or the minute you have your mind set on something else you want to buy, you see it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like that, right? It's just what's top of your mind or what you're thinking about is what you start seeing and you start attracting. So.
Yeah, and I've even noticed too, just from a pure activity. So Hermosi the other day, he said, if you're poor, basically he's like, if you're poor, here's things you need to do. Quit eating out, and he kind of went through his like core things, and one of them was you need to go get a job where you can look in the room, find the best producers, and just do more than them. Just do more activity than that guy. Hell, he makes 100 calls a day. I'll make 200. He goes and does this. I'll do that. So it's like, it's really easy. It's a numbers game. He's like, just walk into a room, figure out who's doing it well, figure out their activity that led to that. Just do more. And I have noticed over the last week or two, having some confidence, having some things. It's like you get up, you have a little bit more energy for a little bit longer during the day. You stare at the computer for a little bit longer. You hop up and say, I need to go do this. And you're just more proactive. So I think it will go well. So why don't we talk about a little bit of a market update? So in the DFW area, every week we come to this Friday episode and we talk about what's happening in our market as far as the real estate and the MLS. And when I looked at it this morning, the interesting thing is I had not done a 10-year look back on our months of supply.
Nice.
So I did a 10-year look back on months of supply. We're at 4.5. We're at 4.5 months right now. And for the last 10 years, the highest point that I could find was in July of 2019. And that was 4.4 months. So we are officially at a 10-year high in inventory, which I think is
things did get a little weird in 19 for some reason.
Yeah, there was a big
I remember
peak
it
there.
was kind of just like this weird weird situation. Yeah.
So but we're at a 10-year high on inventory.
It wasn't talked about.
It wasn't discussed
like it is now.
We
didn't have interest rates.
We didn't have the real estate heavyweights. Just bringing the market to its knees with information. Exactly. Yeah. Just holding it accountable on a weekly basis. So days on the market, average days on the market right now for the entire MLS is 48 in Collin County, 38, Denton County, 39. But the entire MLS, 48. And I do think some of those, if I ran the MLS, I would have some way to account for the property right around from us that's been on the market for like 2.5 years because they want like 4 times more. It's like, okay, let's put them in a different category. Like, you're throwing the numbers off here. Like, let's talk about real people, real houses that are actually trying to sell, not just I'm a builder and I'm going to put one of my model homes up for 3 years just to like have it on the MLS. Like, it just drives me nuts when I go see that. And it's like, but anyway,
many of other people are just sitting there. I mean, like in my son's neighborhood, and I think we mentioned this, we mentioned putting that property on the market last week, I believe. Ended up going under contract in like 6 days, I think. Weird, I go back to that. It was weird. It's just trying to get a feel for it. It's I don't like broker bay setup, by the way. Just shout out to that. I don't like how it tracks the data. I don't have any problem with the booking. But as far as like notifications and like tracking it, it was very easy before, like with showing time, to see the data and you could go back and look really easily. Now, broker bay makes it kind of tough to, well, I'm doing it off my phone, so it may be on the computer. It might be a little, a lot easier.
Yeah.
But like to see who's actually showed it, because you get a notification for every showing. So if somebody cancels one and changes the time, it kind of skews it off. So I could look at it and go, amount of activity on this property in the last week. It might show 15 appointments, but like it might be the same agent 3 or 4 times that changed their schedule, or something like that. So I really don't think that we had a full 10 showings before then. And we ended up with a backup offer on it yesterday. But even that, like, it's kind of weird. They told me Saturday they were going to send a backup offer, and now it's like, yesterday, Monday, get it, which I guess isn't completely out of whack for it, knowing it's under contract. But all that being said, it's just hard to gauge it, right? Like, no feedback, not a swarm of activity, like kind of trickled showings coming in, and I'm kind of chasing people for feedback. They're not giving it to me. I got one pushback that they loved the house, but they didn't like the location because they could literally see the apartments at the end of the street across the creek from the front of the house.
Shame on you for not putting up some shrubs or something. I mean, did they have to put up with that?
I would not have seen that comment coming in a million years for it being literally like his house is like the third or fourth from the end of the street, and then you have this big green belt in the city park, and then you have a creek, and then you have apartments on the other side. Like, what?
Okay, you should have had a picture. Right. You should have had you led with that in the MLS. Home with great view of apartments, however, otherwise great. We've been remodeled, but it's interesting. We, from an activity standpoint, showing the leaches, my couple that's downsizing, going in and looking at what's available. We walked a house yesterday, and on the pictures it looked really good. I would have believed if they had said it was an Airbnb, but it wasn't. But it kind of had that feel. It had been sort of remodeled and a lot of cutesy paint and all that stuff. But when you really started to pay attention, it was like a little bit off. And there was a lot of shifting. And I noticed no brick shifting, but just some sheetrock was weird and a lot of nails popping. And then it looked like, I'm not even kidding, the seam between the top of the wall and the roof line right above the door, it looked like my guy from Mapleton, Ricardo, went over there with a couple tubes of toothpaste and glooped it on some like a 1/2-inch gap and then painted over it. That's what it looked like. Well, and so I called the agent and I said, "Hey, just had a few questions. Have they ever had any foundation?" No. He's like, "Actually, I'm an inspector too. I'm a licensed inspector."
Oh no.
I was like, "Okay, well, I just noticed this." And then she's like, "Yeah, there's a thing called oh God, what do you call it? Something lift. Something happens in the attic where there's like basically a lifting up of these." And I'm like, okay, I guess it's possible, but it's pretty much throughout the house, and there's multiple cracks that are large on the sheetrock, and there's nails popping. So I just thought, I don't know. And then I asked about that seam. He's like, what's funny is my son lives about 3 blocks away from that house. He's got that same thing. I'm like, okay, but I still think it's off. Like there's just something weird about this house. Yeah. Luckily, they didn't love it, so I don't think we're gonna have to deal with it. Plus, this house had solar, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I'm like, man, I don't know, you gotta deal with solar. But we walked away.
That's for another
podcast. But
I think we talked about it before. But
we've killed solar.
I will speak of that. So I'll speak of the cracks situation because, and this is fully laid out like that. Anyways, and I think we talked about it before. We've now lifted or adjusted. The original piers were put in my son's house in 2021 when I bought it and then renovated it and sold it to him. Anyways, they were adjusted during the time that he lived there, and then just recently adjusted again. Right? Well, this crazy weather that we're having, all this rain and saturation that we had in the spring, and then all of a sudden now we're in a drought and we haven't had rain in I don't know how many days. And, it's in the triple digits. And so anyways, we go on the market. Everything was good. Literally a couple days into the market, a couple of the doors were sticking. Walk in, cracks opening up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I sent it to the engineer right away, and mind you, the difference is we have a lot of documentation and a lot of different steps that have been taken on this property. So we are very familiar with it, and the engineers know all about it. And so the engineers, I sent them the video. He goes, it looks like normal settling. You should have waited probably 4 to 6 weeks before you did, patches and that kind of thing. I'm like, I know. And he goes, I know you're trying to get it on the market. I'm like, well, technically we're on the market. So yes, we didn't really wait, which I go back. I mean, there's other projects where it's just kind of sequence, like we fix the foundation, then we jump on cracks right away. So I don't know, I don't know how much, it matters different times, but yesterday I go back over there and look like they've gotten a little worse. The top of the seams up in the bathroom, like I could literally, like, it's about a 1/2 inch gap. And I'm like, I sent them the video again because I'm like, I know what you said, and we'll plan to touch it up. Fortunately, the buyer and the buyer's dad is very familiar with this type of thing, and so they're not really too concerned about it. They've seen all the documentation. They understand. They've anyways. So I called the engineer and I sent it over to him, and it's late last night. But I'm like kind of panicking a little bit, and I'm like, man, are we missing something? Because I really don't want a phone call later. Like, are we missing something? Should there have been more piers added? Like, I'm just like a little lost right now because I'm seeing this movement, and is there anything we need to do? And he's like, no. He goes, this is normal for this weather, normal for the situation. You're fine. Everything looks fine. Patch it up. Do what you want to do before closing, but you're fine. So it's like, all right, okay.
Can you put that in writing?
Professional opinion. I mean, I just, hey, I'm just crossing the T's. I talked to my son about it too. Like, look, I'm just, it's much better to be proactive and make sure you got the professionals in there to give their opinion.
You don't want to get a call in 6 months from an attorney that says, "Is this Mr. Westbrook?"
No, I mean, and we've got so much documentation. I don't know really how that would be negative.
Yeah, I mean,
you've
done your part. Yeah,
we've done everything we can possibly do. It's not like anything's swept under the rug. It's not like anything's not disclosed. It's not like anybody's trying to get over on anybody, right? Like that is not my business model. That is not what we're portraying, versus this guy that you had a conversation with, just brushing it off like it's no big deal. Like if there's that much movement, call an engineer, spend the money.
Well, the nice thing is he did say, I've got it. We could get an engineer in there. He defaulted to that. Like he was cool about it. So, all right. Well, speaking of getting things over on people, I do have a news story that we will get to. So let's talk about a little bit of news.
Let's do it.
And before we get to that story, I did want to say, I want you to check out, we have not done our weekly obligated mention of Grandscape, even though they're not an official sponsor. We're putting it out there. We are the official mouthpiece.
We talk about it quite a bit.
The podcast mouthpiece of Grandscape. Warren Buffett, I think, probably has something to do with that place. So we're trying to help him out, and so Cosm
become a sponsor. They just need to become a sponsor of the real estate heavyweights.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Have you heard of Cosm? COSM, I think is what it is. COSM. So what they're doing, so it's been all over social media this week, and they keep likening it to the Sphere in Las Vegas, which it's obviously not the Sphere.
Okay. I have heard a little chatter about this.
It is
like
evidently
a half a sphere.
Yeah. Evidently, it is like an enormous sort of IMAX-y vibe theater, and I looked up tickets, so it's this. It looks like almost like a movie theater, and I think the Sphere is actually pretty steep, and so it goes up in these 3 levels. There's level 1, level 2, level 3, and the screen in front of you is just immersive, they say. And so what they're doing is they're selling sporting events, special fights. There's several football games on there this year. There's an LSU game, a Notre Dame game. And so I have a buddy, big LSU fan. I was like, that'd be kind of a fun thing. Click on it. And level 2, the middle level, I guess, is the premier level. It's already sold out. So I'm looking up level 3 tickets. $200 a seat to go to a movie theater, basically, and watch a football game, which I'm sure it's cool, but that doesn't come with food. That doesn't come with drinks. So I want to experience this, but holy cow, so that's
for
what
a game for a football game.
But we can't talk too bad about it because I'm anticipating at some point when Grandscape's a sponsor, we'll be getting to go to Cosm, and we will get to speak highly of just an amazing experience and totally worth every dime. I'm sure it is. But yeah, I've been really curious about that over there.
Speaking of Grandscape,
dude, let's talk about it.
I've been wondering for a while. When you drive by and you see those big giant steel columns that
I know what that is.
Putting in right next to the highway.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the heck is that? It's very close to the highway. Well, drove by the other day, and they now have thatch roofs on top of each one of the columns. So I'm assuming it's some kind of zip line.
It is a zip line. It is a zip line company going in there. Yeah. It's going to be this high ropes zip line. What's great about that place let's talk about it from a development standpoint, just real quick.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's separating them from, let's say, malls that are dying, and even from Legacy West is great. They obviously know what they're doing.
Sure.
The entertainment that Legacy has, though, is the Box Garden, which is the concert place. And they have events there, and they've got some trivia nights, but it's basically a concert venue, a really unique one. And it's by Haywire, one of the better restaurants that you can eat at in the Plano area. It's a great experience, but other than that, there's no entertainment. There's no putt-putt. There's no.
What do they call it? The Plano Hall or
Legacy Hall.
Legacy Hall.
Yeah, there's Legacy Hall, and then there's a Box Garden at Legacy Hall, which is their concert venue right there. That's what you can see from Haywire. So, but outside of that, it's basically shopping and eating. There's no entertainment. There's no putt-putt. There's no. I don't even know if there's like an escape room. There's no. I don't think there's a movie theater right there. It just is what it is.
Yeah. It's food and drinks and
Across the street, technically, is the Plano Comedy Club. I've been there a couple of times. It's cool, but that's not, hey, let's go do this kind of on a whim type deal. The Angelica Theater used to be across the street. It went out of business. But so Grandscape has done this great combo of shopping and eating and experiences. And so they've got the concert venue there. What is it? Lava Cantina. They've got Shields. They've got Nebraska Furniture Mart. They've got all these little boutiques.
Well, and not to mention the concert venue that is part of Grandscape that's free.
The grassy area.
To come and watch,
Yeah, the grassy knoll, I think is what they call it.
What an amazing thing if you like music and, you can get, food and drinks, around you and just bring a lawn chair. And you can also bring a cooler out too.
Yeah, that's cool. They have a lot of free concerts there. They're putting in a huge new venue. They're calling it Mavericks Dance Hall. So we can go line dancing. I know you've been talking about us going line dancing, so we can go over there. And then the Truck Yard is right around the corner. So I don't know. I love that place. They need to be a sponsor. Cosm is there. They have Tiger Woods putt-putt place. World Springs, which I've heard is cool, but a little expensive and extremely hot when it's 103 degrees out to go hot, not jump in a hot tub outside. So that's like they need to maybe work on that. Maybe put a few chillers on their hot tubs over there. But so Cosm's coming in. Another little news. So a Richardson-based company called RealPages. Are you familiar with that? RealPages?
Yep.
RealPages is a Richardson-based software company that I think specializes in apartment rental listings, possibly.
Okay. Yep.
And so they showed up in the news this last week. Not the local community newspaper, not the Dallas Morning News, but all over news outlets because the Department of Justice threw the book at them and said, shame, shame, shame. And they are suing them for Sherman Antitrust Act for colluding to raise prices on rents in multiple states. Texas was not actually one of the states, but I think there's 5 or 6 states where they said that their technology is helping landlords work together to artificially raise the price of rents. And evidently there was enough evidence of it that the Department of Justice threw the book at them. And of course they're going to fight it. But man, I thought that was pretty interesting. They're based here. And of course, I think it just goes to this narrative is that the government has the magnifying glass on real estate transactions, the real estate industry. We've talked about South Carolina really throwing the book at wholesalers. Of course, we've got the realtor laws, and the commissions are trying to reduce those over the overall transaction price of loans and all that stuff, and transacting houses. So this goes towards that. They're going after the landlords. They're going after some of these softwares. But what made me think of this is that it's also similar with some of those Airbnb softwares like AirDNA. Don't they suggest rental prices on some of those? Like it'll say, hey, there's something coming to town, raise your rents. Like it uses this algorithm, And that's what they were saying. The algorithm was basically like helping them inflate these prices. And so I thought, well, there's other things out there that do that for short term, maybe even midterm, that says, hey, this is what you should be charging right now. So I don't know. It may somehow come in and
Airbnb
impact the industry.
It itself, like on my system in the calendar.
Really,
I have it adjust like with like an automatic adjustment. I put a bottom on it, but it's like it automatically adjusts based off of demand.
Wow.
And so like there's some nights that it spikes way up. I don't know what the reason is or what the algorithm is kicking out, like some kind of event coming into town, or like what it is specifically. But
yeah, well, Airbnb may be next. I'm not sure. The Department of Justice, we'll see how this lawsuit goes. And so last piece of news, I know you've got to go and you're doing some design work today. Last piece of news I thought was interesting. Have you ever been out to the what is it, South Fork Ranch, where the show Dallas was filmed? I've never done a tour out there. Have you done a tour out there?
I've never done a tour. I thought they sold it. I thought it got sold.
Well, so this is the thing. Side note, doing home health, I did home health out in Parker. I had a couple that lived right across the street from there. One of the more unique couples I've ever worked with. He's an attorney. He was in the NFL, super eclectic, great people. I loved working out there. Beautiful property. But it was right across the street from South Fork Ranch. And so I was out there a lot. And I do remember hearing a few years ago that something sold. It's still an operating ranch in some ways. And I think what may have happened is the story is some of the land, the land around it was owned by someone else and it traded hands, or the ranch itself sold some land around the house to a developer.
Okay.
And so now they have received approval from the city of Parker to develop, I think they said it's 29 acres possibly, of land right around the South Fork Ranch, the Dallas house. And they're going to turn it into a neighborhood, which I assume they're, just reading this is not going to be sort of a Lennar neighborhood that just butts right up to the back fence and, it's no sort of paying attention to what's there. I think it's going to high end. Yeah. Lucas, Parker, that area, they're going to be some nice houses. And they said they're going to somehow figure out how to bring the cows around front, sort of like to keep the ranch feel. So when people are living there and all that, they can kind of,
feel. You drive through the cows to get to your
house guess, now. You have to drop. There's a valet at front. You put your car up front and then you ride your horse up to your house. That's what's going to be one of the cool features of the neighborhood. So that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. They only can swim in a horse trough, which we saw at the White Rock Tour of Homes is a thing with high-end homes. If you can't afford to put a pool out back, just put a horse trough. I was like, man, they got the Headley Farm life going on out there. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, South Fork Ranch developing. If you have always wanted to live the traditional, stereotypical Dallas glitz and glamour life, you could have the South Fork Ranch mansion.
Gas tycoons.
Yep. They will be in your backyard. So, well, that does it for today. If you have not, please like, subscribe, share this podcast on Spotify, Apple, with your friends. Share the YouTube videos with your friends. I've posted a few from the Keller house. We're going to try to start doing some more video work where we're posting some of our projects and jobs out there. And I need to get these podcasts edited and put up there. My guy in the Philippines has gone MIA. I hope bless him and his family, but he is not returning my messages. So I may have to find someone else to help me out edit YouTube videos because he was doing a good job. But I reached out at one point. He's like, yeah, I'll get on it. And then he just never did anything else. So I will have to look into that. So we're not up to date on our videos. I think we're through episode 55 on there. And so we've got some catching up to do, but we actually get a lot of views on some of those videos. And so it is a medium we need to pay attention to. So if you haven't checked that out, go check out my Keller house. We did some cool videos out there. But until next time, have a great day.